Alright, hey everyone. I am this guy R-Sick,
I'm Ms. Ray.
and we're going to walk you through Unravel 2 co-op. No major skips, which isn't technically a category yet, as of the filming of this video.
I am sure someone out there at some point will put a major skip in a co-op run, but today is not that day.
So the game opens with a lengthy cutscene, and timing for this category begins as soon as you gain control of your Yarnies, which will be 30 seconds from now or so.
This guy is white, Ms. Ray is blue, and we're going to start. I am already holding right, and he is already holding Zoop.
As well as right. Zoop, in case you're not familiar, is triangle plus L2 on a PlayStation controller, or Y and LT on an Xbox controller. And we're off.
Is it Y? Is it X? Whichever one's the top one, honestly.
The reason we zoop to begin with is so that we can get through that fence quickly. The fairy will not open that fence up for us until we're merged.
Same thing here. Fairy doesn't open this one until we're merged, so normally he
we did
jumps
that
over that.
So we'll go ahead and demonstrate that anyway. So here is how this very first puzzle is supposed to be tackled. We'll go ahead and demonstrate the quote-unquote correct method. You're supposed to do this, jump up, wait here for your Yarny partner to come over, and you'll see if we're separate right now.
Yeah, if we're separate, it doesn't open it until I merge onto him.
But that takes too long for the fairy to catch up and open the way for us. So what we do instead is another zoop. I'm going to get up on top of the log. I'm going to ride this log about halfway down. I'm going to jump onto the fence, zoop, and we are well on our way before the fairy ever clears the fence for us.
While we're in this screen, let's look at some of these zoops.
All right.
Some of these zoopy zoops.
So zoops, like I mentioned, triangle and L2 on a PlayStation controller, Y and LT on an Xbox controller. If you're using a Switch, I don't know what the buttons are.
Good luck.
The idea is, it is a mechanic that was discovered by PokeWix back in August of 2019, and it helps you to move to a Yarny in a different area much more quickly than you would normally just running over to them. In order to be able to zoop, there is one thing that you must make sure you have taken care of, and that is here. Autograb must be turned off. If autograb is on, zoops are not possible. Also worth noting, zoops cannot be done, to the best of our knowledge, in solo runs. This is only for co-op. So, I'm going to zoop to Miss Ray. Again, I am white, Miss Ray is dark blue. Zoops can be done from any distance. You have a limited distance regardless, because eventually you run out of yarn. I can't go any farther than this. They can be performed from any distance, but you must have line of sight. So I can see Miss Ray right now, I can zoop to her. So I'm gonna jump up in the air, hold L2 and triangle, and there you go. I merge quickly. One more time. There's a couple of variations you can do on this. The first we'll demonstrate right now. It's called a zoop cancel. I'm gonna do the exact same thing as before, zoop to Miss Ray, but this time Miss Ray, mid-flight, while I'm still in the air, is going to also press the zoop buttons, the L2 and triangle, and you'll see what happens.
Cancel.
So if you're ever trying to, for instance, get up onto a ledge that's too high to jump onto, because zoops give you so much added height, when you cancel, you can end up right back onto it. And we will make gratuitous use of that in the future.
There was a point not that long ago at the time of this filming when people would come into the community and they would say, so, how do you run this game? And literally all we would say is, I don't know, like, figure out how to zoop, honestly. Good luck.
So hopefully this video makes that a little bit easier for people. Now for a little while, we'll run the game pretty much as intended. You'll notice that as I move along, I spend pretty much all of my time hopping. That's because bunny hops, as we call them, we have found to be faster than just running along the ground. Now that may or may not be true for you. we have found...
But he's ahead of me now.
It varies a little bit depending on console. On the PlayStation 4, which is the console that we run, not at the moment, we're on PC right now, but we run on PlayStation 4, we are fairly confident that bunny hops over inclines, declines, and maybe flat ground are all faster. On PC, bunny hops are definitely faster on inclines, probably faster on declines, and not faster on flat ground. Suffice to say, it is never slower. So you can always bunny hop, and you will never lose time. Plus, it's just kind of fun to do. Still running the game pretty much as intended. Got some swings coming up. Swing timing is very important if you want to maximize your efficiency in this game. Miss Ray got quite a bit ahead of me there because I had a poor swing and she had a better one. I can make up any lost ground by just zooping to her.
There used to be a zoop cancel there, but we have found that to be faster, honestly. There's fall damage here. I see how I'm already moving before he can stand up again. That is quite a useful thing.
We'll talk about fall damage more later. That's what we refer to it as. I don't think that's a universal term by any stretch of the imagination. Here's some more swings. Try to do those as quickly as you can. Moving on.
Awful. There is a little zoop boost you can do there. We haven't committed to it yet. Let me say that.
So coming up here soon is our next puzzle skip. Starting at the top of this hill. So, when we go down this hill, we're going to suffer what Miss Ray just referred to as fall damage. The idea there being, when you fall from a great height, or when you hit the bottom of a slope, or sometimes whenever the game feels like it, the Yarny will fall over and take a few seconds to get up. Sometimes you can prevent it by jumping shortly before you hit the ground, but easier to do and more consistently is if you begin the preceding section merged, like we are now, the Yarny who is not in control, so I'm the white Yarny, I am currently in control, Miss Ray can do whatever she wants on the controller, she cannot move unless she gets off of me. The Yarny not in control can unmerge and not be affected by the fall damage. So we'll demonstrate that now. And Miss Ray's already up and moving before the white Yarny can go. Alright, so here's the next puzzle. We call this puzzle Log Hat, and I'll show you why. First, we will demonstrate the quote-unquote correct way to get past this puzzle. I jump up, I grab this, it pulls the log down, Miss Ray goes all the way over, stands there to weigh the log down, I jump up, and we proceed. That's slow and forever taking and boring. So instead, restart the checkpoint, go down the hill, fall damage, that's okay.
See, I got that jump.
Miss Ray managed to avoid the fall damage, which is nice. We're going to start this the same way. I'm going to jump up, grab that. Miss Ray's going to stand right there, and the log is going to fall on her head. Hence the name, Log Hat. Now, remember what I said about zoops requiring line of sight. I'm going to go ahead and press both buttons to zoop right now. Nothing happens. I'm going to continue holding those buttons while I move to the right, and you'll see as soon as I am within line of sight of Miss Ray, I'm going to zoop to her. And we're off. Now, before we go on to the next screen, you'll see our yarn is tangled here. That can happen. That's one of the dangers of zooping. If your yarn gets tangled, there is a limited amount of yarn you can work with, and you will eventually not be able to proceed any further. If you get tangled and you have hit a checkpoint, you can reload the checkpoint to get rid of the tangle and proceed. If you get tangled shortly before a screen transition, like we are here, usually it's not a problem. So we're going to attempt to proceed to the next screen. It worked, great, and now our yarn is no longer tangled.
That one is usually pretty safe. There are some tangles that usually screw you up, and there are some tangles that usually are safe, and that one doesn't usually cause a problem. It's generally fine.
So when zooping, always important to try and ensure you have no major obstacles in your path.
That's why not everyone does this, but I will almost always jump before I zoop, and that I have found does tend to keep you from tangling quite as much.
Alright, we're playing the game some more as intended, but we're coming up soon on our next puzzle skip. here in just a second.
This one always tangles me. Ha ha ha! Look at that.
Okay, so here's our next puzzle. The intended method for getting past this is to have your Yarny tie a knot, tie another knot, build a bridge, jump up. That's slow and forever taking, so we're not going to do it. Instead, Miss Ray's going to go all the way over to the right, stand right about there. I'm going to go to the left, stand right about here, and we're going to zoop. And perform a zoop cancel, like we demonstrated earlier. One more time.
I also jump. That gets him a little bit of height. So when one Yarny is zooping to the other, say Yarny A is zooping to B, whatever movement B does will also affect A. If I move right, he will move right. If I move up, he will move up. So if his normal zoop won't get him quite enough height, I can jump and get him a little extra.
All right, here we go. One more time. And I'm on top, and Miss Ray can just do another zoop to merge to me. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
If you're on Switch, enjoy. Apparently you don't have to do that. Little hint thing there.
All right, here's another puzzle that can be skipped.
We don't really know how.
We will attempt to demonstrate briefly. There's a couple options here. One of them is called a wiggle jump. The idea... Oh, I almost had it. The idea is when you jump off of a surface, a wall jump, if you wiggle your joystick back and forth, you can get some additional height. You see, I had the height there. And if you are facing the right direction, as you get the extra height, you can perform a second wall jump here to get onto the next surface. Now, this skip would be a big time save if you can get it consistently. To the best of my knowledge, no one can.
I think I timed it. You have like 4 tries before you're losing time to just doing the puzzle correctly, and clearly we as a community have not actually figured out wiggle jumps yet, so...
We have done this successfully in the past, as have other runners. We will provide examples of that so that you can see it.
Anyway,
there's also... The other method here would be another zoop.
A zoop boost.
This is... Yeah, we refer to this as a zoop boost instead of a zoop or a zoop cancel. The difference being, I'm going to zoop to Miss Ray. Don't do anything here. Like I usually do. And I am going to merge, but Miss Ray... as soon as I merge, is going to separate us.
Oh, it didn't work.
Didn't work that time.
Aw. Aw.
One more time. Now you see, I separated as soon as I made contact with Miss Ray. If you do that while you are in the air, the Yarny that is doing the zoop, me in this case, gets a little bit of a height boost. So we're going to try it here. Miss Ray is going to wall jump off of the right surface as I am zooping to her, with the intent that I get high enough to then wall jump off of the left surface. This is very difficult. I doubt we pull it off.
Again, zoop boosts are tricky anyway. This is not one that we have really committed to doing, because the time save is just not a big enough deal to us right now.
All right.
So you get the idea, but actually we're just going to tie the knot, make the bridge, push the log.
In our own runs, we do this puzzle as intended. This is the intended method. You build the bridge here, you push the log all the way up.
And while I'm bored, I practice my wiggle jumps.
You cancel those knots, and you can proceed. You see how that is a big time save, if you can do it consistently. If you can't do it consistently, it is almost certain to be a time loss. Here's the very next puzzle, which has sort of a skip. The intended method here is to build another set of bridges. You build a bridge here, you jump up, you build another bridge, you jump up. Again, slow, forever taking, boring. We're not going to do that. Instead, merged or unmerged, if you want to both do it, you jump up, climb all the way to the top of this anchor point, release the anchor, jump, and press up on the joystick all at the same time. It sounds much more complicated than it actually is. Whoops. You see how you jump, and at the peak of your jump,
sometimes,
maybe,
usually,
you press R2 or RT again to tie to the anchor point one more time, and that's all there is to it. Now on that last jump, you'll notice I perform a second wall jump. Instead of pressing directly up on the joystick, I press up and slightly to the right to get purchase on this wall, so I can get a little bit extra height and get me up over this branch. I'll do that whole thing one more time. Jump, 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 and away we go. It's much, much faster than building the bridges. And again, we play the game a little bit as intended for the next minute or so. If someone can figure out how to skip this little bit, I would be forever grateful. I'm going to climb up. Miss Ray is going to swing over to get a little bit ahead of me. This is one of those times you could zoop, but I find the risk of getting tangled a little too great.
And I need to be farther over anyway, so if I get ahead of him, it's not a big deal.
All right. So this is not so much a skip as it is maximizing the efficiency of the mechanics we have available.
And this movement will happen constantly throughout the entire run, so we might as well talk about it.
So ordinarily, the intended method here is to drop down, swing. Miss Ray is going to jump off, climb up the rope. Slow, boring. We're not going to do it that way.
We can climb back over here.
Yeah, instead of restarting the checkpoint, we'll just...
I think this checkpoint
We'll
makes
walk all
you
the
do
way
that
back.
entire cutscene again, so don't mess up here. Instead, we're just going to zoop at the end. We're going to swing over.
I'm going to do White Yarny. Is going to do everything the same, except Miss Ray, as soon as I get off my swing, zoops to me. That saves her a whole lot of time. And this section has several swings in a row. This cuts off a lot of time, particularly if you can do it quickly. More bunny hops, again, because we find them to be a little faster.
And zoops.
All right, this next one is similar, a little bit different. Now, it used to be the recommended method here, after the first Yarny swings around to land on the perch to the right, the second Yarny would drop down to the floor and zoop up. We found that the risk of tangling there was a little too great, and honestly, it's a little bit slower than our current method, which is this. Not that. Hang on. I had a bad swing there. Okay. All right. We're gonna start that over. Give me 1 second.
This one has gotten pretty consistent for you, but it's a really awkward length of yarn, so it used to take several tries.
All right. As soon as I land, I'm going to press L2, and I'm going to start walking to the right. That way, when Miss Ray jumps down, because I'm already pressing L2, her yarn is a set length. She's not going to drop all the way to the ground. Because I am walking to the right, I am already pulling her up to the edge. As soon as she's up over the edge, we proceed along.
To the very last puzzle.
To the very last puzzle.
Which is the worst.
This is a relatively difficult puzzle. We will demonstrate the intended method first, then a couple of different ways to skip it. You will find that the skips are much, much faster. The intended method, you jump into the water, swim all the way across.
Oh, the swimming is so slow in
climb
this
this vine, jump onto this, swing across to this vine, jump up to this. That's fine.
Well,
it's fine.
No.
Instead, this is what we do. I told you it's fine.
Okay.
There's a couple of methods here. We'll demonstrate our preferred method and the fastest method first. This is a little bit difficult. It may take us a few attempts.
Jump, zoop, cancel is the idea.
So you see Miss Ray jumps,
cancel,
begins zooping as soon as she's jumped, and zoops back to me as soon as she hits the water, essentially. Again, line of sight is important here. So if it ever fails, it can often be because there was no line of sight and the zoop cancel did not work. The idea here is that you want to cancel the zoop while the zooper, Yarny, Miss Ray in this case, is on top of these vines, so that when the zoop is canceled, she automatically grabs onto them, and you can begin climbing, and then the Yarny down below just zoops up to that second Yarny.
If you have a hard time with this little short jump zoop, you could do, we all used to do this, go all the way kind of out here, and then zoop. Sometimes that gets you a little bit extra height, so it's easier that way.
One more time with the fastest method. It's a little bit difficult.
Also, sometimes zoop physics are just weird. So, like, that time it kind of flung us down. I didn't get enough height that time. Oh. I have drowned here because it just, like, flings me to the bottom of the well. So if weird stuff happens, we probably don't really have an answer for you. It's just that the game's physics isn't always super great.
Now you can do this bucket in one big swing, bypassing that vine entirely, which is nice.
And then we have one last little thing to pay attention to. We made sure to be merged there so that as we leave the bucket, I can jump off of him to cancel that fall damage. So I'm already all that way ahead of him before he can start moving.
Just saves you a couple of seconds there at the very end of the chapter. Now we're doing this on a saved file. We did not start a new game here, so we will not encounter the following cutscene. But ordinarily, when you finish the first chapter, there is a lengthy cutscene. This cutscene, to the best of our knowledge, cannot be skipped. Most of the cutscenes in between chapters can, but the cutscene following chapter 1 cannot be skipped.
Also, whether or not you can skip those cutscenes depends on what platform you're on. On a PC you can, on a PS4 Pro with SSD you definitely can, but on other consoles or platforms it might not be worth the time save because you have to quit and reload the game. So if your load times are slower than the cutscene would be, you might as well just watch the cutscene.
Yeah, you still have the ability to skip that cutscene. It's just slower. So ordinarily, at the end of chapter 1, you would gain control of your Yarny right about here.
And then you just jump up over there and you do chapter 2.
And we proceed on to chapter 2.